Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.
All right, welcome to my live stream. This is an episode where I'm going to work on comics. I know it's been a while, so we're going to work on page 169 of Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I might play some tracks from my upcoming album. I have 9 mastered mixes. And then the 10th song I started recording a little bit today. So maybe I'll play a little bit of that, depending on how many people kind of show up and if that's of interest to them. Let me make sure I have something open. I feel like there's a program I should have open, and I'm not sure why it's not open. So let me open it up real quick. And then what we're going to do, basically the plan for tonight is applications. There we go. And then let's look for... There's just like an audio leveling application that I think will be helpful to get better audio, just to make sure we're getting good audio. So I'm opening that up. And then while that opens, got it. Okay, cool. Come on. Let's see if this works. Hopefully that'll kind of improve it a little bit. So I just put in that plugin just so that the audio is sounding good. So let me know if you guys see this, if you're able to kind of see what's going on. And what we're going to do is basically work on coloring this page, which will be lovely. So I'm excited about it. I do want to get a cup of coffee, so maybe we should play. Was it see, I gotta find which one it is. Oh, Paul Pate's ad. So we'll play that real quick. I'm going to get some coffee, and then we'll get to basically shading this page. That's my goal for the night before the work day tomorrow. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. And here's Paul Pate's amazing animation to get us started off. I'll be right back.
There he is. My boy got the board all set up and ready to go.
You're late.
Yo, chill, my dude. I brought you something.
Brought me something? You feeling all right?
You like graphic novels?
Do I like graphic novels? Harrison, I'm the star 3 graphic novels. You know, the Detective Perez series by author and illustrator Paul Pate. They're on sale at Amazon. You're in them too. They're set right here in Rust City.
Yeah, I'm hip to all those, but yo, you gotta check out this really dope one by Joshua Kemble.
Let me see.
Yo, this here is called Jacob's Apartment. It's about this young dude who shares an apartment with this girl he's trying to get with, but their romance is doomed from the start. Yo, I swear this could be a...
Wow. The art in this is really nice.
That's nothing compared to this next one. It's a masterpiece. This is called Two Stories. It's a semi-autobiographical account of Kimble's childhood and early adulthood. He got picked on a lot as a kid, just like you.
Artwork in this is really black and white. Looks great.
About how he struggled to adjust, grow up in spite of being just like you. No offense.
Whatever, man. You got these for me?
Yeah, graphic novels by Joshua Kemble. Bought them right off of Amazon. Great stories, great art, just for you, my dude.
Well, thanks. I know it isn't easy for you to do something nice. I appreciate it. I look forward to reading them. But first, sit down, yo move.
All right, sweet. Oh, cool. We got Dylan in the chats. How's it going? He said, you're live streaming again. Yeah. It's been a busy week or so because basically my wife is out visiting family in Japan. And so a lot of this week has been me kind of single dadding it quite a bit, which means like a lot of the time, Mai will help Ben with his homework and stuff like that. And, help with a lot of stuff with Ben. So I've been basically doing that for like the entire week on top of going to school full time and working full time. So it's been like really hard to find time to work on the comic. And then the time that I have found to work on it, it just wasn't ideal to kind of stream during it. So and then this is the worst excuse for not streaming, but the Dodgers made it to the World Series, so I wanted to watch the World Series. And there's no way I'm gonna stream during the World Series. So the first game of the World Series, oh my gosh, if you're a baseball fan and you're a Dodger fan, that was a brutal game because we got just destroyed by the Blue Jays. But the next game, the second game, we caught up and basically won. So now it's like 1-2. So both teams kind of have to win quite a few games to gather the World Series. But it's neck and neck right now, which is great. And then the cool thing is the next few games are on our home turf at Dodger Stadium. So we have home field advantage, which is pretty exciting. So anyhow, that's pretty cool. Dylan said, did you get a new haircut? No. Instead of getting a new haircut, I actually haven't had a haircut in a while. So this is just what wildly happens to my hair when I haven't gotten a haircut in a while or put product in it in the mornings. So I've definitely been in Sunday mode today. I managed to get some of this page done. I got a new song done, which was cool. The one that we tracked the last time I was live streaming, it took me all week to kind of, here and there, 15 minutes a day, track some vocals. And that is hard to live stream while doing. So that's part of why I haven't been live streaming for a while either. Is generally, when I'm penciling, I don't live stream. And then, because it just requires so much focus. And then outside of that, like, when I'm tracking vocals, it's just like, I haven't been able to figure out how to stream that in a way that would work. Just because it's like 2 mic inputs would be really hard to kind of make happen. I guess maybe in theory I could like live stream while doing it, but I feel like that would be a real, like, that the logistics of that would be pretty beyond me. So but I might play that a little bit. How many pages do you have left? So I have way too many pages left. I got to get to like so a little under 60 pages. But I can knock them out, especially when my wife is back from Japan. I'm gonna have a slower output, just because, you know, well, I mean, everybody knows this, like, who has kids. It's like, it's kind of a group effort. So like, having all of that on top of work and stuff like that. And I have family helping out and stuff, but, that's going to cause something to have to give. And unfortunately that's going to be page count, which makes me really empathetic to, like, I've always been pretty empathetic to single parents, but like, I don't know how they do it. I mean, I kind of can see it, 'cause, like, you know, Ben and I have been doing fine. We've stayed on top of his homework. You know, I've made sure he's had all his meals and, you know, hung out with him and stuff like that. But it is really hard to do anything outside of just that, when it's just me. And then that mixed with like the homework from school and then prepping for classes and stuff. It's been quite a challenge. Makes me really, yeah, Dylan said it takes a community. It totally does. It makes me really empathetic to people who manage to work that. The cool thing, though, is, and this isn't something I would have imagined before, but my son's a lot older now. And so it was funny. There were a couple days where I like was exhausted and I took a nap, and then Ben would wake me up and be like, "Dad, you were supposed to do this thing for your school or whatever at this time." like he was a partner in crime. Like, kind of awesome to have him get to that age where he's really helpful and awesome and kind of a member of the team. So it was kind of fun. It's a group effort, is my point. And it's cool to have Ben be at that age. Also, he made like the most rad pumpkin on the planet. I should show it off. It's like the coolest pumpkin that he carved on Saturday. And then his aunt took him to like the Halloween thing too, so that I was able to get a little bit of work done on homework and stuff like that, and then also working on comics. So this is kind of an interesting scene. It's like we're gonna see Elizabeth's pretty sick, and Wilson here. This is the first time we've seen Wilson without her hat, which is like a really defining thing about Wilson. So she has like two hats in the story, but I'm hoping her hair color and skin tone and stuff like that will be enough to kind of be a giveaway that this is Wilson. Because I was initially going to have her have a bonnet, and then I was like, that's just too many hats. It's too many hats for the reader to have to keep track of. And also there's a scene coming up where we have Sophie in a bonnet, and so I was just like, that's too many bonnets. Too many bonnets. That's going to be the name of the next comic. But anyhow, so yeah, so the comic's coming around good though. Just here, I want to turn this back to a brush eraser, because the pencil eraser is really good when you're doing like line art and you need like a solid erase, but other than that, it's kind of not so great. Anyhow, it was a great game though, that Dodger game. Dylan, you were mentioning your aunt or somebody was watching it. That's awesome. Yeah, it was pretty epic. Like, the first one was sad. Like, I had a friend who had a birthday party, but I couldn't go because, you know, I had to stay home with my kid and, you know, get homework done and hang out with him for a bit. And but anyhow, I guess my friend's birthday party was like a total bummer, because they're like, yeah, we made it to the World Series. It's his birthday and he gets to watch the World Series game. And then we just got trounced. Like, it was like the sixth inning. Like we started with a really good lead, and then the sixth inning was just like getting just destroyed. Like, and the Blue Jays were playing amazing. I mean, like unbelievable. Like I don't think they missed a ball. Like they had a lot of fouls and stuff like that, but it's like I'm trying to remember in that game, I think they maybe had 2 strikes. So like everything, like they were just hitting everything. It was insane. So it was nice to see us come back the next day. But yeah, so there's that. Yeah, things are going good. I'm pretty excited about the album getting closer to done, this book getting closer to done, and I'm planning on putting in quite a few hours of work on this. We'll see how long I can last, but my hope is it would be cool if I could tone this entire page tonight so that I can start penciling tomorrow and kind of work through it. For those of you who are Artcasters fans, I believe we're doing our Halloween stream on Wednesday this week. And so that's something you're going to want to tune into. I don't know if Scott will make it because like Scott seems to disappear every Halloween episode, but we'll definitely be having David Hartman on, which is part of why we're doing it on Wednesday. David was available on Wednesday and just kind of asked us, he was like, you know, I can try to make Thursday work, but if you guys could do Wednesday instead, it would work way better with my schedule. And we were like, dude, a Halloween is not the same without David Hartman. So we're going to do Wednesday Halloween stream, which should be pretty fun. But I don't know who's going to co-host instead of Scott, because for some reason Scott just doesn't seem to show up on Halloween. I'm not sure why. What else? I can tell you I might be dressed as a hot dog. That's a possibility. It's just all things are possible is all I'm saying. I might be dressed as a hot dog. That's all. Okay. We're getting further on this though, and this scene was a little challenging, not crazy challenging, but just kind of trying to work out the lighting. I need to be a little more bold with it. Last time I wasn't quite as bold as I should be with the darkness, and it's a night scene, so I definitely want some more kind of boldness on the contrast here of what's happening, so we really feel that candle lit late at night kind of vibe. But yeah, oh, Dylan said, I'm hoping David's book can ship next month. I'm excited about that and Scott's Kickstarter because I backed both, and I really want some cool wax backs, and I really want David's book. Yeah, for sure. What are some other things that are interesting? Oh, man. So as you guys know, I have guitar acquisition syndrome. This is a thing that, you know, a lot of people who love guitars suffer from. They call it gas, but it's just guitar acquisition syndrome. Anyhow, there have been 2 releases lately that were just like, oh, they were such temptations. One was Squier re-released the Hello Kitty guitar, and I have had my eye on a Hello Kitty guitar for a long time. Like, it's kind of a meme among the kind of hardcore community and the guitar community. Like what okay, the story behind the Hello Kitty guitar being a metal guitar. This is hilarious. So what happened was, like, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, Squier did a collaboration with Hello Kitty. This is like a decade ago. And it like their hope was to have these Hello Kitty guitars that would appeal to young girls. It was like an idea of like, hey, little girls like Hello Kitty, and we could make like really girly Hello Kitty guitars to sell to little girls and get more girls involved in playing guitar, And what happened was it was a total failure when they first did it. So these guitars were run for like a couple of years, and then they canceled the line because just they weren't making sales. But what ended up happening is on the used market, these Hello Kitty guitars started getting really popular because now keep in mind the first run of Hello Kitty guitars were kind of awful. Like they weren't high quality Squires. But the thing is, they were metal guitars, and a couple people started realizing, like, because a metal guitar, a Strat style guitar that's made for heavy metal, is a guitar where, basically, like most Stratocasters have like a traditional Stratocaster has 3 single coil pickups, right? And then people who liked playing more loud rock and roll usually were drawn to like humbuckers. Because having 2 pickups could kick the hum, the 60 cycle hum that happens when you plug in a single coil guitar. And so what ended up happening is in the 70s, players who wanted to get like louder and get more gain on their guitars, like more feedback and more not feedback, but more crunch and rock and roll rawness out of their guitars, ended up taking, humbuckers from Gibsons, which traditionally had these humbuckers in them, and they would mod their Stratocasters, their Fender Strats, to like basically have like 2 single coils, and then at the bridge position, which is the best position for rock and roll, they would install like a humbucker. Anyhow, flash forward, and metalheads started basically modding Stratocasters. I think the most notorious of these Strat mods would be EVH, right? Eddie Van Halen would basically modded a Stratocaster to have like a big humbucker, and then he took out the tone knob, and it's just single volume. No tone, because who needs tone when you're dealing with rock and roll? You just need a volume knob and a good humbucker. And he made the Frankenstrat, right? And in the 80s, inspired by the Frankenstrat, Kramer and keep in mind, I'm not like a guitar historian. This is just the stuff I've read on guitars and acquired throughout the years. So some of this might be old wives' tales, but this is as far as I understand it. The evolution of the kind of chuggy metal machine was pretty much like, if you wanted a Strat and you were playing metal, it would be a single humbucker, like a really killer overdriven humbucker, and a volume tone on a Strat body, and basically getting rid of everything else, inspired by EVH, right? By Eddie Van Halen. So flash forward, and the Hello Kitty guitar, I think because it was simple and it looked cute with a kitty, they basically released it with a volume knob and no tone and just a single humbucker. So unwittingly, Fender ended up making a guitar they were trying to market to little girls that ended up getting bought on the used market, because you could get them for like dirt cheap for a long time online. You could get like this like mod platform that was a Hello Kitty guitar and you could make it into this like shreddy machine because it had all the guts for that. Like it just had a spot for a really good humbucker and a volume knob. That's all you need for metal. So anyhow, it started becoming a meme online, like these really dark, like death metal bands, like chuggy heavy metal bands, partially because it's just a funny thing to like play like death metal with a Hello Kitty guitar. And also because it was just funny that they unwittingly created a heavy metal guitar that that had Hello Kitty on it, like without knowing. So anyhow, it kind of became a meme, and these became really sought after in the guitar market. And strangely enough, the value of them started going up. And so Fender kind of noticed this, and I think it was like the Hello Kitty's 50th or 30th anniversary. I can't remember. I think 50th. But anyhow, when Hello Kitty had their anniversary, a couple years back, they re-released a limited run of Hello Kitty guitars, and this time they had like the coolest pickguard ever. The pickguard is Hello Kitty's face, and they made it super girly. It was like a pink guitar with a pink headstock and like red inlays. And they released that with like a special case that was like a Hello Kitty case, and it sold out like fast. And it wasn't the best guitar, a little bit better than the older Squiers, but still like the pickup's kind of lame. But people would just buy them to mod them and make them into like these heavy metal like chug machines, because how funny is it to just be playing like shreddy death metal on like a pink Hello Kitty guitar? So then flash forward and they did another release. This time it was like better pickups and more up to the quality of like Squier, what they call their classic vibe series, which is like the best Squier guitars you can get. And they get really good reviews. I have yet to own one, but I've played them and they're excellent. Like Squier classic vibes are great guitars. Especially for like a beginner guitar. They're just like miles beyond the quality of the Squiers that I grew up with, like my first Squier, and my old band used to play Squiers all the time because it was just like, you know, at the time that was like the only budget instrument that was any good. If you were like a Fender type guy. I've since learned that like Epiphone was a good budget if you were kind of more of a Gibson-y type band. But anyhow, long story short, the Hello Kitty guitar. Okay, so that second release, at this point, like I'm in on it because like I love the meme of it. I think it's hilarious and amazing to play like a pink guitar to do, you know, with Hello Kitty on it, to do like more shreddy stuff. And I just was like, and also the fact that it was getting good reviews because they finally put like kind of a more metal. They kind of started picking up on the fact that the internet was not wanting, like the people who were buying this guitar were not little girls. It was like metalheads, like, and like punk bands, and like even the girls who were buying it were like older like punk bands and stuff. So anyhow, on the second release of it, this is like last year. They did a limited run, Hello Kitty. It's kind of expensive for a budget guitar. I think it's like $500 for a guitar with like one pickup. But it got good reviews, and they upped the quality of the pickup, and instantly they sold out. And I remember at the time last year, I was like about to pull the trigger on it, and then I was like, no, I can't buy another guitar. Like I just can't. And then I think I finally convinced myself to get it. And by the time I had, it's like they were sold out like immediately. Like, because I'm not alone on this. Like it is now kind of a legendary punk guitar, like, or hardcore guitar. Because it's how awesome is that to like, and also they released, because they picked up on the fact that like people were not buying this that were little girls. It was like, I'm sure there are a lot of women who are buying it, but the primary market is like death metal bands. Like they actually released like a Hello Kitty fuzz pedal that actually was a pretty good pedal too, along with it. And they had a more specialized case and stuff, but it was just, it was a great guitar, by all means, from what I had heard, although people were still modding them to have like even better pickups and stuff, so they'd just get like, or an active pickup or something, so they could get like the shreddiest, like chuggiest sounds out of these guitars. But I remember missing out on it and feeling like, man, I missed my opportunity to get the Hello Kitty guitar. Tell me if this is interesting to you guys, because I'm obsessed with guitars, so I thought it was funny. So anyhow, for years, for like the last year, I've been talking about it. Like, there's friends I have at school. My other friends have just talked about how I felt like I missed the opportunity to get the Hello Kitty guitar, because I just think it would be great to have a pink Hello Kitty guitar. They also had one in white, but it's just not quite as good as the pink one. And then I think they released one that was black too, but just not quite as good as the pink. Like, you really want it to, you want that juxtaposition between Hello Kitty and then just the shreddiest guitar imaginable. Like, you want that juxtaposition to make this guitar work, in my opinion. So anyhow, I flash forward to a week ago. I will be probably showing it, but let's just say I found a way to get another guitar. And it's a dream guitar kind of thing. And I'll be showing it to you guys when I get it. But that was like a couple weeks ago. And then I was like, cool, I never need another guitar again, because now I have like one of my dream guitars. Like, keep in mind, I have too many guitars, which I'm not bragging about. It's just, I like recording music, and each guitar brings out an interesting, different thing. You'll see this on the album that I just am finishing. Like, I have played almost one of every guitar I have on different tracks, and it brings out a different vibe. Like, it's just a weird thing where some of the guitars want to be loud, some of them want to be quiet. Weirdly enough, some of the guitars, like 7-string, I thought was going to be like this chuggy thing that I use mostly for, but it ends up making these kind of darker, more ominous songs that aren't necessarily like chuggy hardcore songs. Yeah, Dylan said a black Hello Kitty guitar does not meet the vibe check. It has to be a stereotypical soft feminine color. Anyhow, so keep in mind, I acquired this guitar. It's really good news. It's like, cool, I can get a guitar. It works with my lack of any budget at all, because basically what I do is I'll put them on like these 48-month payment plans for like the really nice guitars. So that, like once every 5 years, I'm allowed to buy like a high quality, like non-budget instrument, Anyhow, so needless to say, it was like the day after I got this purchase, guess what gets released? The freaking Hello Kitty guitar. And by the time I'm able to like even be in a position to get one, it's just gonna be gone. Now, don't get me wrong. The guitar I got is way better than the Hello Kitty guitar. But it is funny. It's like, I think the Hello Kitty guitar is going to be like my white whale, where this one, though, isn't as cool because it's white. It still looks really girly, though. It's got like pink inlays and like a white headstock and a big Hello Kitty face on it. You can look it up, the Hello Kitty Squire. But one of these days, man, I'm going to get a Hello Kitty Squire. Like, what? It's just, unfortunately, like the used market for it's insane, because it's like a speculator's market now. So it's like the guitar itself, I think, goes for like $500, which is pretty pricey for a guitar, though. Guitar prices are weird, especially with the stupid tariffs that have been going on. So like, because of the tariffs, like the cost of guitars have just shot through the roof, and they kind of shot through the roof initially during COVID, because when COVID shut down all shipping, it like basically upped the cost of imports and stuff. And so everything got more expensive. And a lot of people think, oh, cool, more manufacturing will be done in the US. What ended up happening actually is that like there's usually just workarounds where China will just ship guitars to other countries. And so you'll have like guitars made in Indonesia, or you'll have China just import the guitars to Mexico, and then Mexico, will ship the guitars. Like, the point being, they found ways around it where it doesn't really hurt the companies in China, but it definitely hurts the consumer here, because either way, if it's made in China, right, you're paying a premium. You're paying a tariff basically on top of your regular rate. And also for US products, at least in the guitar market, you're still paying a tariff for like any components that aren't made in the US that they use in US made guitars. Like for instance, steel. A lot of raw materials are just not readily available in the US, which is crazy, but it just makes sense. So it's like there's things that are manufactured in the US, and like every single part of the process is manufactured in the US, but they're still using screws and components that are made, outside of the US, like a screw. Like that's a thing that is not often made in the US. So anyhow, so to get a good guitar, under $500, pretty rare, that's why I've like been all obsessed and fascinated with Firefly guitars, because I really honestly don't know how they're doing guitars that are like about $200 that are good. Like that's just kind of wild. But manufacturing is getting better. Competition for manufacturing is getting better, and so it makes the quality of the products just get better and better, but the prices are going up for pretty much everything, but definitely the guitar market is getting affected by that. So anyhow, I was just putting it in perspective that the Hello Kitty guitar, $500 is a lot for a Squier, but for the quality of Squier, it is, it's a little bit overpriced, but not as much as that might seem to somebody who's like, thinking of guitars as not an instrument, because instruments like, and here's the weird thing is guitars seem like they're expensive, but then you compare it to like any other instrument in the world. And actually they're not that crazy. like guitarists will complain about like a custom shop or something that's like $6,000, which is an insane amount. And I will never pay in my life $6,000 for a guitar. I just don't see me ever doing that. But to get a decent guitar, if you spend about $1,000, you're going to get a decent guitar, like a really good one. Somewhere around 1,000, but I think 500 is usually kind of a mark where you can get a decent budget guitar that's like not bad. And then you have rare exceptions like Fireflies, which, so far every single one I've ordered is amazing, but that might just be the luck of the draw, right? Because like they have less quality control over, imports that are cheap, just like, any other product. So anyhow, my point is just a long-winded way of saying, 500 is a lot for a Squier Hello Kitty. It's even more than like a Squier Classic Vibe is. And Squier Classic Vibes are amazing guitars. But it's not that bad. But in the used market, I mean, because they sell out so fast, it's like you're going to drop like a couple grand to get like 800 to $1,000 to a couple grand for a Hello Kitty guitar. That's, because it's just become such a meme. And so, anyhow, my point is it's the elusive white whale. It's the guitar I'll probably never have. And I think it's funny, but, the other guitar that dropped, Dylan said, I got a big stack of comics, all in Aquaman 1 to 10, all in Bat 1 to 2, Transformers, worst spot ever, meet Ballpoint, Zatanna, Bring Down the House, and Point Character 1 and 2 by Taco. Nice. I don't know Zatanna at all. I don't know what that is. That sounds kind of cool though. So that's guitar acquisition syndrome. That's how it works, right? It's like you acquire the guitar of your dreams and you're like, yes, I finally, everything's complete. And then they re-release the Hello Kitty guitar and it's like, well, it's not totally complete because just for the memes, I really want to have a Hello Kitty guitar. I would rock that thing. Like the next time, we don't play a lot of shows, but I just could imagine the next No Saboteurs show, how amazing it would be to be on stage with a Hello Kitty guitar. I would I think the price of admission for that moment, for that memory of just the beauty of rocking a Hello Kitty guitar on stage when you're playing like post-hardcore would be pretty amazing, is all I'm saying. So anyhow, that's how guitar acquisition syndrome works. And then if that doesn't make things even worse, right? They finally, okay. Is this at all interesting? Dylan, you're, I think, the only person participating in chat. I think there's like 4 people watching though, so maybe it is interesting. But let me know, Dylan, if you don't mind me going down this rabbit hole. Honestly, I'll probably go down it anyway. But let me know. Gasp, she's a DC Magic user. She's friends with Batman and Constantine. Oh, cool. Speaking words backwards. That's kind of cool. Wow. Can you imagine if you could just, like, if all you had to do to make magic was just speak backwards? That'd be pretty cool. Okay. So now let's do guitar acquisition syndrome number 2 story. Okay. So you have the Hello Kitty guitar. Okay. And that's something I'm like, man, at some point, Thomas said, now we know Josh wants a Hello Kitty guitar for Christmas. No, I've already covered my Christmas. I'll show you the one I did get. It's a good Christmas. Like, the guitar I did get, I already made a deal with my wife where I'm like, yeah, this is my Christmas for sure. Like, there's, it's like my Christmas and my birthday. Like, it was a really good deal. On a really nice, like, a guitar that if I had a lineup and I had all the guitars I'm going to talk about and I had to pick, obviously I would pick the one I got. So I don't feel like I lost out. But it's kind of like if you went to, like, I'm trying to think of like a good example. Let's say you went to a fine, like you saved up money and you went to a really good restaurant and you enjoyed your meal. You had like filet mignon and you're like, this is the best filet mignon ever. But then, like, right after you've blown all your money on a filet mignon, they bring out the dessert menu and you're like, crap. Like, I could have, like, there's the part of you that's like, yes, I got to eat this amazing filet mignon. But then there's the human condition of like, but I bet that, like, that fudge sundae was delicious. You know, like, it's that. Anyhow, so ironically though, the day after the Hello Kitty comes out, you guys probably know this if you've read 2 Stories, which you should. If you haven't bought 2 Stories, you should buy my graphic novel 2 Stories. It talks about how when I was a kid, I was obsessed with Back to the Future. And I got all these, I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to kind of tell you this, a much less well-told version of the story that I tell in 2 Stories, because it's an autobiographical book. So these are my memories, okay? But anyhow, so I was like a nerdy kid. Like, I dressed as Indiana Jones for an entire year. Like, I was that kind of kid where when I liked something, I like really liked it. Like, predating when cosplay was a thing, like I would like get really interested. And I think some of this might have been autism too, but like also some of this is just straight up being a kid in the 80s and the 90s when these things came out. But anyhow, when I was a kid, Back to the Future 2 came out when I was in elementary school. And Back to the Future Part 1, you know, had been just like one of the coolest things on the planet to watch on TV, like, or rent, right? It was just an amazing movie. I don't think I got to see that one, the first one, in the theaters, because I was probably 4 years old when the first one came out. But anyhow, when the second one came out, I'm in elementary school, and we got all hyped for it and watched Back to the Future Part 1. And because Back to the Future 2 came out, there's like talk of like hoverboards being real. If you guys are of my age range, you'll remember this. I don't know. I feel like this was a universal thing, but I feel like every elementary school, there was like a rumor. This is pre-internet too. So this is like just pure on the ground marketing. But there was a rumor that the hoverboards were actually real, like that they filmed with like real hoverboards and stuff. Anyhow, so we have this fascination with Back to the Future, but also I think Back to the Future for my entire generation, any kid in the 80s who started playing guitar, you know, in the 90s, probably got that bug to play guitar just from Back to the Future. Like, there's a classic scene in the Back to the Future where he plays a Gibson, what they call like a 338 or no, a 335, I think is what they call it. But it's actually like a 334. So like anyhow, as you get older and you start realizing guitar history and stuff, there's this guitar that got all these people into playing guitars, and it was inaccurate historically because the guitar Marty McFly plays didn't come out till a year later. So it's a model that didn't exist. But I think when they were filming it, they just were like, hey, this looks close enough. We'll call it a 335, which did exist at that point. And we'll dress it up and give it like a Bixby and make it look like a gigged instrument at the time. So like they changed out, like when they have the Bixby on it, it's not like a factory Bixby. You can see the parts on it where they took out like part of the bridge to install the Bixby. And it's just a beautiful guitar with like custom inlays. And this guitar is like one of the most popular guitars of my generation, because the scene where he plays Johnny Be Good is probably the main reason any of us really, in my age range, like before Nirvana, before, you know, grunge broke, before any of us were even watching MTV, or I mean, if you were like in my kind of scenario, before you were even allowed to watch MTV, right? You're too young to even really know, like, you know, you're still listening to like the records your parents have kind of age, you know? And before any of that, like the thing that was like the guitar thing, like the thing that got a lot of us into guitar was like Marty McFly playing a freaking, you know, Gibson, and a beautiful like cherry red 335. So anyhow, needless to say, everyone in the guitar world of my generation, we're all old farts now, you know, but like all of us like wanted that guitar. Like you wanted that guitar. And a lot of people have like bought guitars that are similar, like a 335 style guitar, specifically because they want to do they want to be Marty McFly, you know? So anyhow, Gibson has talked about for years making like a reissue or a custom shop of it. And what happened is the guitar itself from the movie shoot like disappeared. I am such a nerd. Why do I know all this stuff about guitar? I'm not a professional guitarist, guys. I'm a cartoonist, and now I'm an ex-art director and an art teacher. Okay, but I did play music for a long time. And you know, when I was younger, that was one of my dreams, was like to make comics, which I've achieved, but then the other was to be a rock star, which I have not achieved. And I no longer hold that dream to be a rock star, but I do like writing music and making music. And I love guitars. So anyhow, the point being, Dylan said, this is interesting. You could talk about butter and I'd still be interested in it. Nice. Thomas, I will say, if you want to buy me a Hello Kitty guitar, I'm not protesting. If anyone out there in my audience, because we're all really wealthy, I know everybody who watches my live stream has, $500 to spare. I'm kidding. Don't blow your money on that. Just get my book, it'll be fine. Which I think you guys have already done. Anyhow, the point being, Like yesterday, or it's like 2 days ago. I don't know. My timeline's all confused, but I think it was like on Thursday of last week. So the Hello Kitty thing drops, and then it's like, again, this is literally a day after, I felt all, yeah, I got my dream guitar. And then, and then 2 days after, by the way, so Gibson announces that they're going to do this. They're going to do Marty McFly's guitar finally, because they were never able to locate it, but they located a guitar that was similar. And then they had like their custom shop like really look at it and nitpick it and figure out how to build this thing exact to spec. And so the custom shop announces that they're going to have this, but they also announce the price, and it's like 20 grand, right? Which actually makes sense, because a Gibson 335, like an actual Gibson 335, is generally, even if it's not a custom shop, it's generally going to run you like 3 grand. But they announce, no, this guitar is $20,000. So everyone in my like world are just like, yeah, I can't. I can't do a $20,000 guitar. That's just not gonna happen. Like, I'm not gonna mortgage my like, I love guitars, and maybe I buy too many guitars. Arguably, is there really such a thing? But anyhow, even though I frequently, obtain guitars, there's no way on earth, no matter how sentimental, I would spend 20 grand. Now, if I was like a millionaire, maybe. If I was a dentist, like, that's the big joke about like PRS guitars. Like, before the SE line and stuff, people would basically call them like dental guitars, like, because it's like they'd always charge like so much for these guitars. It's like nobody's playing a PRS unless they're like a jazz dentist, Anyhow, so and they kind of look like jazz dentist guitars. I'm still not a big fan of PRS. Like, there's been one or two. I've been kind of tempted by the Silver Skies just because of the tone. But even that, there's something real stale and kind of dull about a PRS to me. And if you're a big PRS fan, I apologize. But they just have never been my jam. But anyhow, a 335, though, is generally a very expensive Gibson to own. And then like a high quality, like custom inlay, it that's not crazy of a cost. Like it is to me, but I'm not buying like collectible Gibsons, like, but for like the dental guitarists out there, they can all have Marty McFly's guitar. So anyhow, keep in mind, this is all like kind of, depressing in a sense, for a lot of guitarists, because they're like, I really wanted that guitar since I was a kid. Epiphone. Okay. Epiphone on Thursday drops their release of their version of Marty McFly's guitar. So if you guys remember earlier where I was talking about Squire, and then Epiphone being like the Gibson equivalent, like Epiphone is like it's a company that existed before. Actually, I think they're older than they aren't older than Gibson, but they were a rival company that Gibson bought out that was actually most known for making hollow bodies. So they made like the Sheraton and like these beautiful hollow body guitars, and then they got bought out by Gibson and kind of basically became like the budget version of Gibson. Up until the last few years, where they started doing things like the the reissues of classic Gibsons, where they're almost built to spec and they're remarkably close to actual Gibsons. So they've been doing that, and I think they're called inspired by Gibson. But some of them, like like I have a Les Paul that is inspired by Gibson, and it has actual Gibson pickups, like US Gibson Burstbucker pickups, and like the specs are remarkably close to an actual Gibson. So much better than like older Epiphones. Anyhow, so Epiphone announces they're doing their version of the Marty McFly guitar, and their version comes with a case. The case has the band name from Back to the Future. It has like a plaque on the back of the headstock that says like Hill Valley Music and stuff. And it's the Marty McFly guitar, and it like the specs are like remarkably close to like the 20 grand one, but this one's $1,000. And again, like I'm not gonna buy it because I guess I just pulled the trigger on a guitar. But it was like, oh, like I'm just trying to explain to you how guitar acquisition syndrome works, because it's like once you have, you know, it's like Pokemon, you know, you catch, you know, your strong Pokemon and you're like, I am set. I have the strongest Pokemon ever. I've got my Magikarp. I don't need anything else because my Magikarp is the strongest of all Pokemon. And then, you know, they release like a new card or something. I'm not a Pokemon collector, but I'm just saying it works like that, where it's like, then you're like, but I could use this, like, even though I have enough to play the game well, I could use that one, you know, that one card or that one other character so I could play different styles, you know? So anyhow, that was my tale of guitar acquisition syndrome, where I'm happy, and I'm fortunate to own any guitar. But that's how it works. Like, it's like, okay, now I have the white whale of the Hello Kitty and the Marty McFly guitar, which, by the way, also much like the Hello Kitty, just boom, instantly sold out. Instantly. I don't think the Hello Kitty they re-released has sold out yet. It will. But the Marty McFly one, I think that's sold out. They only made 1,984 of them. So it's like 1984. So anyhow, they only made that many, but they sold out, like, I think within an hour or something ridiculous, because again, my generation, that's the guitar that like got everyone into, you know, guitar. So there's a lot of people who've been waiting, you know, like 30 years to like to see that thing. Dylan said, I love Magikarp unironically, even though I don't play Pokemon. I love Magikarp too, and I don't play Pokemon, but that's the joke, because my son was really into Pokemon a couple years back, and I would always joke with him that I would pick the most powerful card and destroy him, and I always picked the weakest. Like, Magikarp's like traditionally the weakest of all. Philip said, hey all, how's it going, Philip? I've noticed you've been doing streams a lot lately, man. I'm behind by like 2 of them, but I'm planning on catching up. Probably, maybe tomorrow, maybe not tomorrow, because I definitely have to get work done, and I want to do some live streams. I think tomorrow I might do a live stream just whilst. It'll be a late one though, because I have classes late at night. But I might do another live stream tomorrow to color this page, assuming that I am able to effectively get the shading done tonight. But yeah, I was just recounting guitar acquisition syndrome and how it works. Philip said, I'm trying to make it a habit. I don't do much on them, but I'm just trying to keep the momentum going. I think that is a good thing, because like I do find that even if I have like a week off from doing them, doing them's not super hard now. Like it used to be, if I took like a day off or something, I would instantly almost like dread live streaming, even though I enjoy it. It's just kind of like almost like working out or something like that, where it's like a positive thing that I tend to enjoy, but that when there's distance from it, then I lose momentum and it's hard to get back on the horse. I have that less and less now, because I've made it a habit that like when I do have the opportunity to, I am trying to live stream and stuff. Dylan said, glad that you made it. We're all glad that Philip made it. Philip is a very talented, amazing cartoonist. Philip, are you rooting for the Blue Jays, or are you just like, meh? So I feel like, am I wrong? Like the Blue Jays are definitely, you know, I would think that, you know, there would be a lot of rooting for that. they had an amazing game. Like, again, I want to see them defeated very badly in the World Series, but I gotta say that first game of the World Series, they did play incredibly well. Like, that was I can't even explain how bad we got beat that first game. And I'm a huge, I'm a big Dodger fan now, but I gotta say, like, that was an incredible game, like on the Jays' part. Oh, Philip said I'm rooting them on, but I can't watch the games because of work. Yeah, I've mostly been keeping track just on the radio. Like, there's like a Dodger station on iHeartRadio that I'll listen to the games live, and then I'll just track it on my app, my MLB app. But I will say, man, the first game of the World Series, like, I thought, cockily, because we do have the best team in baseball right now, so we should win the World Series. But I thought LA was just going to dominate. Like, I really did. And I have to say, like, the Blue Jays blew me away. Like, I think that they missed, what was it? I can't remember the specific stat, but I think it was something like they had 2 strikes like the entire game. Like, meaning even though like a lot of them were fouls or outs or whatever, it's like their hitting average in that game was like ridiculous. Like, they could not trick them on anything. Like, they're just such like solid offense. It's crazy. Like, they have so many good batters, like, and they swing at everything, and they hit like that game, at least. It just, like, it made me really worried about game 2, because I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is an incredible team. Like, because they have just, like, yeah, I mean, their batting is like unbelievable. I could not believe it. I haven't seen that very often, where like you couldn't, like, I felt so bad for Snell, because he, he's just getting trounced, like, as a pitcher, because like it just, nothing would go by them. Like, they were even making hits with the tip of their bats. Like, it was just insane. Like, that team is no joke. So, and I feel like the weakness of the Dodgers this season is, and this is an armchair take on it, but I feel like sometimes we underestimate our opponents. And once we know it's serious business, we tend to, like, we tend to dominate. But like, it is a problem, I think, the Dodgers have, of like underestimating like the strength of their opponents. And it's like, man, that the Jays definitely put up a fight. So, and that second game, I mean, the Dodgers were playing like the Dodgers should. But even in that game, we had a couple like unforced errors where I was like, why? Like, but I will say, like, we lucked out because we have such a good pitcher on that game. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I gotta say they're putting up a really good fight. So I'm interested to see how game 3 goes. He said they've done really well this year. Dylan said blew you away, spelt blue. Philip said Toronto's very enthusiastic about their sports teams. Well, yeah, of course. So is LA, man. LA, we get territorial. The thing is, I don't follow other sports. It's just baseball right now. When I was a kid, my dad was a huge fan of the Lakers, and I was like back-to-back era with Magic Johnson. And I did watch games with him and really enjoy the Lakers when I was a kid. But then I had this period of time, and I think this is just a sign of the era that I grew up in, where it was like there were kind of like 2 camps. There were like guys who were into sports, like the jocks, and then there were like the musician artists. And, I know this is a false perception now, but when I was younger, I had a divide in my head that like the jocks were different than the artists, and you couldn't be both. Like, that just, to me, the idea of that But in retrospect, I think that was just kind of coping with the fact that I wasn't physically I wasn't a very physically game talented kid. You know, I was like a little beanpole, like shrimpy little kid. And so I think that might have been cope, honestly. But I was a real snob about that when I was younger. You know, I used to think the jocks were the enemies, you know. However, as I've gotten older, it's like I think this happens when you get older in general. Is like when you're younger, everything's very black and white and judgy. Like I think I see it with younger kids all the time, where you know there's a lot of judgment and quick, like very black and white thinking. But as you get older, you start seeing the nuances and stuff. So you start realizing, like, you meet enough people who are like, you know, hit the gym, are physically active, like played sports in high school, and, you know, also are great artists. And you're like, oh, like, you know, or you just start like paying more attention to some of the bands you grew up like listening to. And you're like, oh man, like a lot of these bands were like shredded, like, like, anyhow, point being, you know, that black and white, like the jocks were the enemies. Like that was kind of like the way I was in high school, but obviously I grew out of that, fortunately. But it took me a long time to come back around to watching sports and enjoying it. Yeah, Philip said, considering everything going on, Canada is really pushing to win this, so we have a little extra motivation. Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. It would have been, I feel like, at least the nice thing is if California wins, at least you know it's California, and hopefully you're aware, like, we're not really big fans of what's going on. Like, I'm just saying, as a state, California is less to blame for all the crap that the U.S. has been putting Canada through. So, but my apologies, and I will say, if Canada ends up winning, I would find that kind of magical, but I gotta still root for my Dodgers. You know, I think LA needs a win right now too, because you know, one World Series wasn't enough. Like you gotta win a bunch. Dylan said, when I was in high school, the concepts of cliques wasn't that much of a thing. Yeah, that's the thing I was gonna say, Dylan. One thing I'm noticing about the younger generation is I think they have a better balance. Like, you know, there's critiques you'll hear people throw at, you know, the newer generation and stuff. But one thing I do notice is there are less cliques. Like the people are a little more well-rounded in their interests. And I think that I don't know what happened from the 80s and the 90s. Like in the 90s, it was very... Philip can kind of attest to this too. I think we're kind of the same generation, but in the 90s, you know, there was kind of this dissociation, like of like the cool thing was to be like the jaded, you know, we're not going to end up like our boomer parents kind of thing. And a lot of it was like, to be cool, you didn't have to be wealthy. To be like, the cool thing was to be like the kind of broke poet kind of thing. And along with that, like physical fitness and stuff was like kind of considered like a yuppie thing. And now I think there's a much healthier view of that, where I think that the younger generation has a really good view on that, where just physical fitness is like a big priority for a lot of the younger generation that I see, like high schoolers and stuff, where it's not like I don't see a big divide between the jocks and like the artists and stuff. I see like a real cross-pollination of everybody having their own interests, and like it's actually pretty cool to see. There's a lot of things that were negative about my generation that I don't see with the newer generation. Also, I've noticed the younger generation is a lot cooler with like neurodivergence, and that's pretty awesome, because like when I was younger, when I was in high school, like people were really messed up to anybody who was neurodivergent. And And now that's like, I don't know, there's not as much of a stigma about that, and that's kind of nice to see. And then they're a lot more accepting of people's life choices too. That's something I've noticed about like the younger generation, is like just kind of a more like progressive outlook to things, more balanced. And I think that's very positive. There's some negatives, that I've noticed too. I'm not going to kind of get into them too much, but it's like, but the definite positives that I see are those things. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Dylan, because I also don't think that divide existed as much as I thought it did when I was younger. I think, in retrospect, I think a lot of what made me feel alienated when I was younger was being neurodivergent, and not really, there was no diagnosis at the time of like autism and stuff like that. So I think a lot of it was just kind of feeling disconnected from people because of that, more than anything else, where it's just like, most people don't have obsessive interests like an autistic person, so as I've gotten older, I've become more aware of that and my flaws, as but when you're a teenager, it's funny because on one hand you're aware that you're kind of ignorant to things, but then on the other you're kind of like the smartest person in the room, you're right and no one could possibly know more. I don't know. I was a cocky teenager is what I'm saying. I'll write about that in Two Stories Book 2 as well. Philip was saying, that is true. I do remember all that. Yeah, there was just a real aversion to, and like, I mean, it's kind of like typecast now, but it's like there was a real aversion to like mainstream stuff because everything got very corporate in the 90s. Like basically the 80s, you had like this excess of like Reagan Republicans and like yuppies, and rock and roll got so like commercialized that, you had guys with like, big, spray can, like hair, like you had hair bands kind of dominating the airwaves, and everything was just about excess. And like all the bands would sing about was like girls and drugs, and like, it just was like, and partying and stuff. And it's like, I think there was just, and then everything in the 80s was about like the stock market, and like, the success stories were kind of like, weirdly enough, like very like Donald Trump type stories, where it's like in the 80s, people were like really admiring that and looking up to it. And then in the 90s, you have like a whole subculture of just people who are like, just start, and this actually has positively affected the current generation. Is like, I think our generation, similar to like the hippies or whatever, we just kind of were like, we didn't like the narrative, like and that was alive in punk rock in the 80s, but it's like the mainstream wasn't there until like the 90s. In the 90s, there was just kind of like this overall vibe of like, we're being sold a lie by all the adults. Like the adults had these like standards and stuff when they were, protesting the Vietnam War and stuff. And then here we are in like a war in the Gulf, that kind of feeling. So it's like, and that's not across the board, but I'm just saying by the time I hit high school, it's like the kind of cool thing was to be the disillusioned artist. Not that that's true, but it still affects my outlook today too. Dylan said, yeah, the negatives is that Gen Z is becoming more Republican, and young Gen Z and Gen Alpha are hard to teach. Yeah, I would say that, I don't want to get too into it. But there are things I think are really great about the new generation. I don't want to get too into like things that are not great about them, especially because I'm teaching a lot of those people. So I don't want to, trash like the people I'm trying to teach. You know, I think overall, I think there's hope. But I do feel like a lot of generations like sell out. Like I even feel like it's funny because a lot of the criticisms we were making about like boomers, you know, in the 90s and late 80s that were being thrown at like the baby boom generation are definitely I mean, with what's going on in my country right now, like there's a lot to be said for my generation really screwing over the youth with with some of their preferences. You know, there's a lot of old guys that are my age that have basically sold out their values, who used to listen to like Rage Against the Machine and like, you know, they used to stand for something. They used to protest, you know, the Iraq war and stuff. And like, I probably marched in those protests with some of these people. And now they're, you know, betraying everything that was about. And so like, you know, it's the cycle. Like you'll probably see it too, Dylan, as you get older, your generation will probably sell itself out. I feel like they all do. Hopefully not though, you know. But anyhow, that's a long rant, but I do feel like that was one of the failings of you know, the jaded generation or whatever, you know. But there's so many things that are like good too that I'm very proud of with my generation. So it's weird, you know. Yeah, Philip said same with people I knew. Yeah. But I am optimistic about I don't know. We'll see. You know, all you can do is hope that people progressively get better. You know, even in the face of sometimes it seeming like, you know, society regresses. Like as a nerd who like I taught history for a bit. I love history. I didn't major in history, but I dabble at it. Like I enjoy it. I'm fairly literate in it, you know, and the one thing you'll notice in history over and over again is like people just repeating the same mistakes like over and over and over again, you know, like and so I think the interesting thing is like you have to hope that at some point we're not just going to repeat history. Like that's to me, that's the hope, right? It's like I hope that people get better, and so I'm choosing to like believe that that's possible, even in spite of that. Historically, just I mean, like there's a couple things that are interesting. Like historically, democracies die. Like that's definitely something. If you look at history and the history of democracy, like it's not like a great outlook. Like I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like anytime people have tried to do democracy, it usually fizzles out, you know, in similar ways to what people could argue are happening, you know, right now. And so, but I have to hope that people will look at the past and try to learn from it and try to actually learn the real past, not just, you know, what Twitter tells them the past was. And that hopefully our textbooks continue to print the truth of the past, which has been a problem sometimes. I don't know. You got to hope. You got to hope that like we can, you know, we can make things a little better, you know? So I try to look at the positives of the generations. But I definitely look around at like my generation. I'm like, I don't think we're going to be the great, I thought my generation, you know, like all people, you know, when you're younger, you kind of, let's see here, merge visible. when you're younger, you can be a little cynical, but there tends to be this vibe of like, well, we're going to get it right. Like the older generation got it a little bit right, and then they kind of screwed us all over, and we're going to be the ones to get it right. And I got to say, my hope for that for my generation is slimmer than it is for the next. Dylan said, after I realized this phenomenon, I repeat to myself somewhat often to not become what I disagree with now, becoming part of the machine. Yeah, and I keep that in mind now. I keep that in mind now because I do see people, especially of like the kind of older generation than me, like if you go up like 10, 15 years older than I am, I'm thankful that like my mom didn't fall for a lot of the stuff. Like, I'd like to think that my dad, were he still alive, wouldn't have fallen for some of the extreme, just wild, craziness, but like, I don't know, man, there's a lot of people, a lot of people, like friends of mine whose like parents were like reasonable people, and now they've like gone off the deep end. And I try to use that as a lesson, like because I understand kind of how that can happen. You get older, and like there's things that makes more sense to me now than they did as a kid. Like one of the things that makes a lot of sense to me is like I can see how people when they get older get kind of bitter, because it sucks to have your body just not work. Like and like so if I just imagine, like, so I always keep in mind like my grandpa, like my grandpa on my mom's side really aged well. He had like a noble experience aging. He had a really good attitude towards it. He kind of met it with joy in a weird way, and had a very positive attitude, like up until like his last year. And I'm always thinking about that in juxtaposition with my other grandpa on my dad's side, who just got really bitter, like as he got older. And I think the thing that differentiates it is like the grandpa who dealt with it well, like kind of just accepted the limitations and kind of just saw everything as an opportunity. Like going to the old folks home was like fun because he got to socialize and play bingo and like meet people and get in interesting conversations. Whereas my other grandpa, like he met it like in a way that I could see myself doing, like, because what's more frustrating than something you've been able to do for like 60 years? Like, you've been doing, like, you've been driving for like 70 years, right? And now you have some kid, who's, and again, like, keep in mind, like a 40-year-old would be a kid at that point, who's telling you can't drive. Like, and you're like, you can drive, even though you can't, right? That would be really frustrating. Or like somebody who's saying, hey, we're going to have to like put a rack up in the bathroom for you to take a shower, like, because you need something to hold on to. And you're a person who's showered every day of your life for like 80 years, like, and now some kid's telling you, and you're like, no, I know what I'm capable of. Like, I'll be fine. And then you fall because your body is like failing what your mental, like cognitively, what your body has trained itself to do is breaking down. And like that process, like, when I was younger was really mystifying and I didn't quite understand it. But like, as I've gotten older, I can see some stuff already kind of going out. Like my vision isn't what it used to be. Right. I definitely get more aches and pains than I used to get. And so like, I can just, it's easier for me to empathize with what that must be like and why people would be bitter about that, what it must be like to get to that point, and like how easy it would be to get real negative and bitter, you know? And then you see other things like when you're, like things like that Chris Ware does great comics about, right? Where it's like buildings change, like things that, have been reliable things for like your whole life, like your favorite store or your favorite brand or your favorite guitar, all these things, they start disappearing and things become more foreign and strange and less familiar, right? And so I think there's kind of the two approaches to it, where you can kind of greet that with dignity or you can just resent the whole thing. And I think the resentment part is like real easy to fall into. I can imagine it. I can empathize with it. And like you were saying, Dylan, I don't want to betray myself or like the younger generation by falling for that bitterness, because I do think there's a lot of that. Like a lot of sentiment in my country, I think, is based on, people who are really not happy with change, because it's not like they're thinking about it as a scarcity thing. I think of that with like global trade too, where it's like, it's not enough to be the top of the economic ladder in the world. Like the US is the wealthiest economy in the entire world, and it's like, that's just not enough. Like, now we want everything, right? We don't just want to be the top. We don't want to just get the best prices. Now we want to make everything too. And it's like, but you can't have it all. And I think there's like, again, you get older and grumpier and more kind of ground into your position. You're like, no, we can have it all. And if I don't have it, then they don't have it. Like you get in this like scarcity mindset where everything's like a lifeboat strategy, where you're trying to kind of keep, your things for you. And like, if you don't get the thing, then no one else can have it. And if they have it, then that means you can't have it, like that kind of thing. And I think that's really easy to fall into. So like, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying that's something I think about a lot, where I want to get older with an abundance mindset. Thinking about like, a rising tide raises all ships kind of thing. It's all cliche, but it's like, it's such a stark difference. Like, especially when you start getting to like my age, and I'm not even like super old yet. I'm old though, but the older you get, the more you will see that difference like highlighted in politics, in art, in communities, in friendships. It's like the people who have a scarcity mindset, where they just think, I have to get mine before someone else takes it. That kind of thing it's like a rot that just like, it destroys you from the inside. Yeah, Philip was saying, I know this all too well. I'm dealing with arthritis now, my back, my knees, my wrists. Yeah, I get it too. Cause like, even the cortisone shot I had to get in like my hand, I can't imagine how hard it will be to try to keep optimism if I can't even hold a chord on a guitar, like I can see, it's the mythical thing. It's Star Wars, I can see why people fall for the dark side, but I have to believe, I have to believe in the light. Like I have to believe there's a good side. I can't give in to hatred or anger. Like, you know what I mean? That's what these great epics are about. It's like, about like a mindset of not letting greed and anger and envy and bitterness like consume you. And I think that is the battle of getting older. I think you can age again, and I hope I do, but I think it's possible to age with dignity and retain your, retain your ethics and live a good life. Like, I think it's possible, but I think it's harder as you get older because it's easier to sell out and it's easier to give in to, the negativism. negativity. How much do you think these thoughts have roots in capitalism? I think a lot, because I think that I'm a weird lefty, like in the sense that I think that capitalism is good in a lot of scenarios. A good example is the guitar thing I'm obsessed with. I think that it is great to have competition to make the best product, and I think it's good. I actually kind of believe in the idea of a free market. So I think us trading with other countries and getting the best products for the lowest prices is fairly good. So that's kind of my overall take on capitalism. I think that the problem with capitalism, this is my own opinion, you know, but I think the problem with it is when you have scenarios where the profit motive, like, so in the case of products, like consumable products, like that's actually a pretty good thing to have, like almost like cutthroat competition. In the case of the incentives, though, the profit motive is great until you get to things like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tangent here a little bit, but it ties in. So like one of the big criticisms of AI right now is that what's called the paperclip. What was it called? It's called the paperclip something. If you want to Google it, you could look up the paperclip. I think it's just called the paperclip fallacy. But the paperclip factory problem, whatever the title for that is, the general gist is, so you have a AI in a capitalistic system, right? Which, by the way, like let's say you're a paperclip company. In capitalism, your job is to make paperclips as efficiently as possible, to meet market demand and to bring down the costs for consumers so that you can outcompete all your competitors in the market. And so let's say the paperclip factory basically gets like a person who's an AI programmer to like program an AI to make paperclips as efficiently and cheaply as possible, no matter what the cost. Like, as long as it's cheap and you're making the best paperclips and the most paperclips, you can dominate the paperclip market. You program an AI to do that, and its main priority, the AI's main priority, is to make paperclips as efficiently and quickly as possible, and no matter what, right? Seems harmless, but then the problem is what happens when the AI realizes that, hey, you know, like human beings have like certain molecules in their body that could be used to make paperclips. And so it starts harvesting those molecules by killing humans, right? Because it's not thinking about ethics. It's just thinking, I need to make the most paperclips for the lowest cost. What happens when it starts basically taking every resource off of the planet to become the most efficient paperclip manufacturer in the world, right? And so now you have this AI that's out murdering people, destroying all the resources on the earth, but man, is it efficient at making paperclips. So the paperclip problem is an adaptation. Like that's for the problem that, you know, we're eventually going to be faced with AI or a super intelligence, right? It's a big thing in AI. Like, how do you prevent the paperclip conundrum, right? Because it's like, if it wants to be the most efficient, like that would be the route to do it if you take ethics out of it. So here's the problem I have with capitalism is those areas where ethics and free market capitalism collide and capitalism breaks down. That to me is the problem that needs to be kind of corrected with capitalism. So a good example would be like electricity. Like in the early stages of America having electricity, before it was socialized, there was no incentive for most companies to give like electrical outlets to people who live in like small towns, because it's like, your cost to run electrical lines compared to your profit was just like minimal. So like you had these entire cities that were just like blackouts back in the day. Like they had no electricity. Same with the internet. Like there's areas still in the US where it's like there's just no interest in investing in, you know, having internet accessibility for everyone because it's just not profitable, right? So it's like the internet's going to go where the profit is, and then these small margins just aren't even worth thinking about, you know? And so like in a free market system that's purely free market, you'd have like half the South would be living in like blackout states that have no electricity whatsoever. Same with fire hydrants or fire departments, right? Where if a fire department profits from putting out fires, right? Aren't they incentivized then to actually light fires? Like, aren't they incentivized to like fight with other fire departments for the profits? And so, you know, that would be a free market fire department. And the problem is when the profit motive is like, hey, we make more money the more fires there are, then the capitalistic incentive is to start fires so that you make a profit and you end up with like a mob kind of scenario. Or you have the poisoning of the well problem, right? Where it's like, you know, in capitalism, like, you know, you're incentivized to like, again, make things the cheapest they can be, the quickest they can be, the most efficient. And so that hits problems when it comes to like, well, what if you're a soda company and to make your product, you're basically having to poison the local water supply, right? And that poisoning doesn't happen over the short term. It's a gradual cost that basically ends up affecting the entire public, right? And so now you have toxic waste in the water supply, and you know, in capitalism, you can just basically do that till you've ruined the water supply, and then move on to another town for more profit, right? Because it's just like the cost of, you know, doing it efficiently and not affecting the community, right, is actually lower than the cost of just like poisoning everybody and then just moving on to the next town, right? And so you need these. This is my own opinion, but I think like because of things like that, you need a counterbalance to capitalism. Like you need some social things, some socialized things. Same with like the health industry, where it's like if people are incentivized to treat people if they're sick, and there's no like Hippocratic oath, because the Hippocratic oath has nothing to do with capitalism. You know, like the do no harm, like that's not a capitalistic idea. The law kind of getting involved if there's like maltreatment in you know, healthcare, like that's not a capitalistic thing. And so you know, again, you need these kind of counterbalances. And I think in an ideal world, that's what the government serves as, is like the government serves as a check on private industry. And in theory, private industry would serve as a check on the government. And so it's like you kind of have this like symbiotic system in an ideal world. That's what I think you'd have. Where more things, I think more things than people would want would be socialized, but it's not like full. You know, you can't. I think interfering completely with the markets just historically hasn't worked out well. So I think, again, you need this kind of balance of both. And I think the danger is when you start losing the system of checks and balances. That's my own opinion. But I definitely think there's a class divide that wants to see, I think really rich people exploit the systems no matter what, and usually are kind of dominating the poor. And I think that balance can only really be overcome in democracies. And I think that's why democracies are so good, because I think that when you have the people as a challenge to, you know, the government as a challenge to the businesses and stuff like that, any organization where it's a small group of people in power over a large group of people, you need kind of a check against power. And I think that's the beauty of what the U.S. had for a bit, but I don't know how long it's going to last, but that's my own opinions. Yeah, Dylan was saying in sense of art. Yeah, I think there's other things in capitalism that are like short-sighted. I think that the idea to be able to trademark or copyright is actually a good thing. I think being able to hold on to a trademark or a patent or a copyright for like too long can be a really dangerous thing. But I think you need intellectual property rights in a system where you want to encourage art, or you need government to be kind of stepping in and focusing on humanities and like broader things than just, again, like short-term profit. So yeah, I agree with you, Dylan. But who cares what I think on that stuff? I was just answering your question, you know? But I am not, you know, I don't have a perfect solution. But I do think that the extremes can be really dangerous, as we're seeing right now. Because I feel like when you go too just like Ayn Randian about things, things get real dark. One of the greatest lies ever told is that that it's helpful to be selfish. I think that's one of the trickiest things that businesses have done in the last few years. Is like convincing people that no, we're actually helping people by being selfish. It's like that's just redefining what selfishness is insane. But yeah, whatever. I don't know. Hopefully people don't just keep cycling through the same history over and over again. Here we go. We have 2 more to go, and I'm starting to feel tired, you guys, which makes me think I need another cup of coffee. Wow, it's gone over an hour. So let's play a trailer, and then we'll kind of continue. While I'm playing this trailer, if you guys can, it might be nice if you could hit like and maybe, hit the bell so you get notifications when I'm about to go live. And hopefully you guys are getting some art done while we're going. And I'm just going to put on the Kemble files. I'll be right back.
Well, Mr. Stryker, I have you now. There is no escape. You will tell me where the Kemble files are, or you will die beneath the crushing electric arms of my shocktopus.
I hear you chirping, little birdie, but JT Stryker ain't no stool pigeon.
Very well. You have left me no choice. Bring out the doctor. Say hello to Dr. Hodges. I'm sure you're familiar with the doctor and his work.
If by work you mean the murder and torture of innocents, yeah, I'm familiar.
I've waited a long time for this moment, Stryker, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
That's what your mother said.
Well, that's a horrible thing to say. You don't even know my mother.
Don't let him interrupt you. Come on, man.
Look, fellas, we can tango here all night, but it doesn't change a thing. You're never getting the Kemble files.
Oh, I beg to differ, Stryker. I have certain negotiation methods.
Your mom has negotiation methods.
Stop it. That doesn't even make sense. That's not even... It's not applicable.
Listen up, compadres, and listen good. Option 1, I'm giving you 2 bozos and out. You untie me, I walk out of here, and everybody goes home happy. Option 2, I kill everyone in this room and then...
You idiot! You killed him!
I felt triggered. I've been learning to stand up to bullies. I just read 2 stories. Joshua Kemble's raw, introspective graphic novel chronicling mental health, faith, and the struggle for redemption. I also read Jacob's Apartment, a coming-of-age graphic novel about faith, love, and post-college existential drama. They've changed my life choices.
I'm sorry. I had no idea. I too am a fan of the books of the Joshua Kemble. But I'm still going to have to kill you.
Kill me with kindness?
All right, so here we go. So we're making some pretty good time on this. I think ideally, if I can finish this in maybe a half hour, we'll see. But that would be cool. What are you guys working on? I'd love to hear what creative projects you guys have cooking. The thing I find really strange is how people can live in such like separate like logical realities. That's always bizarre to me. Just when it comes to like philosophies or ethical ideas, it's interesting to me like the variety of takes people can have, and sometimes like just the sheer like, you know, there's people with really bad takes, that at least what I think are bad takes, but they have like a rationale for it. But lately, I don't know, like the ability to like reason through something or like steelman like an argument you disagree with is like less and less something I see, where a lot of thinking through problems like becomes like a really bizarre thing for people. Like the poisoning the well thing I was talking about. Like I've had that conversation about that, which actually has happened. Like it's happened multiple times with people who for some reason think that if you just get rid of all government and like the markets, you just let them do as they will, that they'll suddenly be magical. And oh, nice. Dylan said, I'm planning out Absolute Aquaman fanfic since there's no Absolute Aquaman. Nice. That could be cool. Aquaman is a tough one for me because, like, I have not seen these movies, these new Aquamans, but he was always like the... I'm sure the comics are interesting and stuff. But when I was a kid, that was like one of the least interesting superheroes in my mind. Which is bizarre because you'd think it would be cool. Like underwater stuff is really cool. Like I remember as a kid seeing... I need to rewatch this and see if it holds up, but I remember seeing The Abyss. I don't know if it's still good, but it was really cool when I was a kid. The effects were amazing. But just the idea of like deep underwater stuff can be so like suspenseful and interesting. But I just felt like when I was younger, Aquaman was kind of a weak character. Like that was like, if you wanted a Super Friends toy, that would be like the toy you were like, oh, why'd I get Aquaman? Like, I don't know. He just seemed like the least interesting. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like old school or something, but there was just something uninteresting about like a merman to me. Like, I don't know. Still to this day, it just seems kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm an Aquaman guy. But then I was thinking about it and like, I was wondering if, you know, the song Monkey's Gone to Heaven? Do you think that song is about Aquaman? Because there's a Pixies song called This Monkey's Gone to Heaven, right? And it says there was a guy who could control the sea. And then it talks about him getting killed by 1 million pounds of sludge from New York and New Jersey. And it's like, is that Aquaman getting killed by him? Anyhow. I don't know. I should look that up and see if Frank Black ever mentioned it. I will say for like sea-based stories though, man, I was on a seafaring kick a while ago. I think it might have been Corey Kerr who got me into that, but there are some really amazing accounts of like different merchant vessels and sea battles and stuff. That's pretty fascinating. Okay, Jeff Johns. Yeah, see, that's the problem is like I have missed so much of the superhero genre since it got focused back on story, because I got kind of tuned out of it like at the era of everything being Flash and not Flash like the Flash, but like a flash in a pan kind of stories where superhero stories just started getting really repetitive and gimmicky, and it was just all about crossovers. And so I kind of tuned out of superhero stuff like in the late 90s. And I feel like I missed that boom in the 2000s, because I feel like in the early or the mid 2000s, something around there, it sounds like superhero comics actually got really good. Nice. Dylan or Philip was saying if a comic had dinosaurs, I was into it. Turok, man. Turok is pretty cool. Wasn't that was a Gold Key comic, wasn't it? I feel like Gold Key did Turok back in the day. Yeah, dinosaurs are awesome. I was actually watching a video today about like some of the early ideas of certain dinosaurs. And see, I don't know my dinosaur names well enough, but the ones that were really interesting, there was one that was like ended up being kind of like a giant sloth, but initially all they found was like the claw of it. And so they had this idea of this like dino that was walking around with these like giant hands, because they hadn't found any of the other parts to it. And if you ever look at like a sloth skeleton, it looks like something from like a freaking Alien or something. It's like sloth skeletons look like terrifying, dude, like giant sloths. So imagine they just found those like sloth claws, you know? And it ends up being, it's like a duck-billed like ancestor to the sloth that was like really tame. But there were all these stories back in the day when they first found that, you know, I think it was just the arm they found, where they were like, clearly there's this gigantic dinosaur that was just going around like stabbing people with its giant claws. And they had all these drawings of like these dinosaurs, but it's hilarious because like, I wish I could remember the species of dinosaur, but I was watching a video about like some of the kind of early ideas based on like minimal fossils, and then when they found full fossils, they had to kind of revise. Like one that they thought was a giant spider, but it turns out it's like just this weird, funky, like underwater scorpion thing. But they thought they had found this like giant spider that was like, you know, this ancient. But anyhow, so this one, the sloth, the funny part is like the early drawings of this animal. It's not a sloth, by the way. It's like a duck-billed ancestor to the sloth. But what was funny about it was like these drawings of this, like of what they thought the dinosaur was, were like, it was like a tiny little dinosaur with these like giant hands. Like they thought it was like this small dino with like huge hands, like, and the drawings of it are just amazing. I kind of want to draw one at some point, but it's kind of like, imagine just like if you had like a brontosaurus or something, but it has like these giant like hands that are like larger than like its body, you know. There's all these very funny You could probably find it online just by looking up like giant-handed dinosaur. Because this is like something they literally thought for like 30 years or something, that like the dinosaur actually looked like this just mega handed dinosaur. Like it was a dino with just like hands that were the size of like a football field. They're very funny. Erwin said, "Hey, how's it going, Erwin? How you doing, man? I'm just shading my page before I go to sleep, but it's nice to have some Long Beach representation in the chats." Long Beach is a great city. I miss Long Beach quite often. A lot of good food in Long Beach too. I think I've told you guys this story. So, when I was in art school, I worked at this art store on campus at Cal State Long Beach. So there was like a campus art store, and I worked there. You know, because like I wasn't some rich kid. I had to work while I was going to school to help pay for school and pay my rent. Anyhow, so I worked on campus at the art store. It was a pretty sweet gig because you'd go to work and then you'd get off work and go to school, you know, and get to hang out with friends and stuff on campus. And pretty chill job. Just ring people up. And generally working at an art store's a fun job. I had a lot of friends who worked at Art Supply Warehouse too. And it's just like, you know, just like having an art job, like where you work at an art store, is pretty sweet. Like when you're younger. Now it would be tough because like the pay's not great, but it's like, you know, imagine your worst customers are artists. Like artists tend to be chill people. So anyhow, point being, Erwin said favorite food spots in LBC. Okay, one of the ones I miss a lot is actually a chain, and I don't know how big of a chain, but Holy Moly would have this deal on like Thursdays where they would have like $2 for $2 fish tacos, and their fish tacos were like legit, like they'd like melt in your mouth good. So that's one of them. I'm getting into the story of one of my other ones. So anyhow, I had a coworker, and her husband was like the manager of a restaurant, and I never asked her like what the restaurant was, but like we lived kind of in a bad area of Long Beach, but walkable. It was walkable from Long Beach Boulevard. And so on Long Beach Boulevard, there's this little Greek cafe called George's Greek Cafe. And my wife and I like loved to like go there and just get like bomb gyros and like Greek desserts. And then they opened a bigger one later on 2nd Street, which is like kind of like the richer area of Long Beach. And so anyhow, one day I'm kind of like at the art store, and my friend's talking about her husband, and we find out he's the manager of George's Greek on 2nd Street, and like he like managed the whole restaurant. So she was like, I just told her how much we love George's Greek, and so she ended up telling us, "Hey, come by." Like she talked to her husband, and then she said, "Hey, he said if you guys like you and your wife like come by and you stop by here, we'll like treat you like free, like just you can eat like kings." And so we would go there, and then so we went there, and they just like we got like free food like the whole night, and George's Greek is bomb. Egg Heaven was always good. I don't know if Egg Heaven's still around there, but that was always cool. They had really cool like paintings on the ceiling done by different artists and stuff. They had different artists do like ceiling tiles and stuff. That was a cool place. Strangely enough, my wife and I really like Polly's, which is another chain. But Polly's is like just, I think it's mostly, there's no Polly's around here, but I think it's mostly in Orange County and like Huntington area and Westminster. And then there's one in Long Beach. We loved going there. Polly's is bomb. There's, let's see, for restaurants. I mean, if we had some money, the Creperie, dude, on 2nd Street, I don't know if that's still there. That was always nice because, like, it wasn't like crazy expensive, and they had live pianists there, which was always kind of cool. So that was always a good joint. Now again, this is going to be just like a chain, but my wife and I later, because we lived in Long Beach for a long time, later we lived closer to Anaheim, and so we used to live like right around the corner from the Tommy's on Anaheim. And dude, I love Tommy's chili. It's like the best. Yeah, the Creperie is amazing. Yeah, there's so many good food places. One of my favorite go-tos is not technically Long Beach, but I love Harbor House because like there's just late nights working on art. It was always nice to have this like restaurant that you could sit and hang out at with like a really cool ambience to it. And it's right by the ocean, but it's like affordable. And Erwin was saying, you know, all the spots. Erwin, you might be able to help me out here. I don't know if this place still exists. And I've because it's been a long time since I lived in Long Beach, so I've forgotten the name of it. But there was this place, man, and it was like a go-to pizza joint. None of us went to it, but they delivered till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And so all the art majors were like obsessed with this place, this pizza joint. They would make a Thai pizza. Does that place still exist? And if so, do you know what that pizza place is that made Thai pizza? It was like the best. Oh, and then there's a Thai food joint on Anaheim right next to, now I'm forgetting the bar, but there's like this gay bar on Anaheim that I used to live really close to. And there's a Thai place like right next to it, and that is like some of the best Thai food. They have like a cashew nut chicken that's delicious. Yeah, Erwin was like Harbor House, so good. But a lot of it's changed, man. Like I used to like the Daily Grind a lot too, which was right across from campus. There was just a good like little donut shop to get coffee at, but now I think it's a Winchell's, and they moved the donut. Like that just was like heresy when they moved that donut, dude. Because that was like a key spot if you were like on campus a lot, especially because at the time I was, again, don't come from wealth, so I didn't own a car, so I would just like commute everywhere on the bus system, and the bus stop was like right next to the Daily Grind, so I would go there, get coffee and stuff. But there's a pizza joint that was right next to there too, right by campus. That was really good. I can't remember the name, but they have like a Neapolitan pizza or something. Thai curry pizza. Oh, Erwin said Thai pizza on 10th Street. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, the Thai curry pizza. It's anyhow, that was like notorious for everybody I knew there. I don't remember the name. I just remember I had the phone number on a magnet, and my wife and I like ordered that all the time because we'd be up like late working on freelance and stuff. And like, we're on like weird art hours. And so like, when you're on weird art hours and crunch deadlines and you're like, hey, I could pay like, cause it was really affordable too. You could pay like, I think like $10 and they'd give you like a whole Thai pizza and deliver it like again at like 4 in the morning. I'm trying to remember, man, there's so many good ones. Yeah, the pizza near campus on the corner next to 7-Eleven, that place is great. Yeah, there's a lot of just really good go-to places. Still miss Alex's too. That was my favorite. I'd love to go back and just go to a gig at Alex's. I think that's the best dive bar in California, in my opinion. What happened here? Oh, okay, there we go. I thought I had flattened the layers beyond the point of no return. Luckily, I hadn't. Yeah, I had a friend who lived, you know that 7-Eleven right by the, oh my gosh, I'm blanking out. There's a pizza place that has gigs all the time, and it's kind of like, it never was a place I'd go to because a lot of the time it was kind of like frat guys would go there, but it was called like D Piazzas. There's that little corner, and I can't remember the cross street. I think it's where PCH and Anaheim meet. Or maybe they meet. Anyhow, there was this giant high-rise apartment complex and then a 7-Eleven right across from D Piazzas. And then that's where Holy Moly was too. And a lot of nights of like drinking late with that friend who lived in that giant high-rise apartment and then drunken walks over to Holy Moly. Oh, nice. Erwin said Alex is hosting our Ink and Drink Long Beach on 12/10. I gotta tell Kawagiwa about that. I don't think he lives as close though to Long Beach as he used to, but that might still be close enough. That'd be fun, man. That's a great spot for a drink and draw. I always loved that Alex's was kind of like you had to be a local. I mean, you know, it felt like that because it's like you can't see the entrance from the front. You had to like look it up, and then you drive in this like alleyway, and then the entrance is there. I always just thought that was cool. It felt like a speakeasy or something. And then there was the Red Room, which was always a pretty good bar. It was always a little too packed, though. That's why we always preferred Alex's, because like Alex's was just like just right, like just enough people knew about it, whereas the Red Room would get pretty slam packed. But the Red Room always had just like bomb music. Like you'd go to the Red Room in Long Beach. It wasn't too far from where I lived either. And that was pretty fun because, like, I used to bike to the, like, I took a theater appreciation class for my undergrad. That was a cool class for, like, just getting, you know, it was like one of those prereqs you just, like, I hadn't crossed off the list at the JC I went to. So anyhow, it was a fun class because, like, for the class, we had to go to the Long Beach Playhouse, like, for a bunch of plays, and then we'd write, like, essays and stuff based on the plays. So what was cool was I used to go to the Long Beach Playhouse all the time, bike to get there. That was always pretty fun. Yeah, Erwin said I used to draw late at night at that donut shop where Holy Moly is. Yeah, that donut shop was bomb, dude. And then my buddy worked at the Starbucks that wasn't too far from there too. But yeah, I don't know. The fun thing about Long Beach was there's just so much. It's a really big city, you know. The thing I missed the most that I feel Long Beach isn't quite the same was Acres of Books, dude. That was right around the corner from where we lived. And so like we would walk, like my wife and I would go to the Walgreens and then like walk a little bit further down, which I think the apartment complex is now there, but at the time they were still it was still under construction, you know, gentrification going on. But we would go to Acres of Books, which was on Long Beach Boulevard, and it went back like 4 blocks. Like it was this giant used bookstore. I don't know, Erwin, I'm sure you probably remember Acres of Books, but I loved that store because, like, dude, they had graphic novels for like $2 that were used. That's where I discovered Jimmy Corrigan. I remember going in there and finding Jimmy Corrigan by Chris Ware. I almost said by Swissware. That would be a good parody. Erwin, your next comic. You should do a Swissware comic. It'll all be like Chris Ware type comics, but it's all like Swiss jokes. Swissware. Oh my gosh. That was the best misspeak of the night. And then like the great thing is you could talk about it at indie comic cons and stuff and be like, I'm a big fan of Swiss Ware, and they're like, you mean Chris Ware? And you're like, no, Swiss Ware. Like, and it's all just like IKEA furniture or something. But it's like building stories, except it's an IKEA catalog. Except is IKEA Swiss? I can't remember. There's something there, Erwin. I'm just saying. Swiss Ware. Oh man, this is the fun part about staying up late and working on comics. I have thought of the stupidest ideas on stream that need to happen. But that sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. That might be worth a drive to Long Beach just to kind of hang out. That's quite a drive for me though now, because I'm out in the Antelope Valley, the Valley of Antelopes. Yeah, the comic format could be the IKEA catalog format structure. Yeah, but it would all be done in the style of Chris Ware, right? But it'd just be like Swiss Ware. It has to happen. It'd be like his fake ads, except they're all real ads for like Swiss Army knives and like Swiss cheese and like different. Like, it's gotta happen. Yeah, Erwin said, oh yeah, that's a drive. Yeah, I used to do that drive though quite a bit, because I had there was a good chunk of time where most of my buddies lived in Long Beach. We've all since like kind of moved around the place and stuff. Erwin, do you know Gary Booth? Like, used to run the phone booth gallery. I was like neighbors with that guy for like the longest time. Him and his wife were like literally in the apartment right next to my wife and I when we had Ben. Because my son was born like, it's not Long Beach, but it's like that hospital that has a good, like the Kaiser that's like over by the Queen Mary. So that's like technically not Long Beach, but it is Long Beach. But anyhow, yeah, Gary and I went to school. Dylan said, I wish I could, but I live in Arizona. But the cool thing, Dylan, is when Scott Circlin starts his drink and draw thing, you can totally make it. Like, how far of a drive is it for you to get to like Surprise Comics? Have you been to Surprise Comics, Dylan? I got to do a trip. Like maybe this summer I'll go out and visit like Gary and Scott, because I think it would be fun to go up there. They've come down to California so often. It'd be fun to go up to Arizona. I don't know about the summer though. Like, that's the problem. Arizona in the summer, man. Whew. I don't know if I can handle it. Like, especially if we drove. I don't know if I want to drive in Arizona, man. Like the time you want to go to Arizona, I think would be like, well, you tell me, Dylan, but I don't know. The last time I was in Arizona was for a business trip, and it was so flippin' hot that like when I got out of the airport, you know, the doors to the airport opened and it was just like the moisture just sucked out of everything. Like, I could have had like a water bottle with me and it would have just been empty the second I stepped out of the door. It was like that hot. And then I've thought that was an exaggeration, but then like Scott, I think a couple years ago, like texted me a picture of his rear view his rear view mirror had just fallen off of the front windshield of his car. It just fell off because like it was so hot it melted the glue that was attaching the rear view mirror. And this is coming from a person who, I live in a desert. It gets up to like 110 out here sometimes, and it's like That was just heat I can't even imagine. Yeah, Erwin was saying Chris Ware's art does have an IKEA feel to it. That's what I'm saying. Swiss Ware. It needs to happen. And then I'm trying to think of like Swiss music. Like what is like Switzerland? Do they have like polka? And am I crazy? Is there kind of a polka thing? Because you know how Chris Ware does like the ragtime ephemeralist and like different kind of like ragtime themed stuff. It could be that, but like an obsession with, you know, like Swiss music. I don't know, man. That might be too deep of a cut though. Because I feel like the parody of like the Ninja Turtles, or like, you know, like I feel like the general public is aware of the Ninja Turtles and like Watchmen and X-Men, you know, and The Dark Knight. Like these are enough of mainstream culture to where like people are familiar. But I think like doing a Chris Ware parody thing, I mean, cartoonists would know that, right? Like, because Chris Ware's like he's my favorite cartoonist, but he's also the cartoonist that none of us like want to bring up most of the time in the indie world because he's just like too good and it's annoying. like when I bring up Chris Ware, you know, among cartoonists, it's like one of those, we all kind of know he's just like a genius. Like it, you know, it's like he's just on a level that like there's just nobody doing what he does. Like, I don't know. And there's people who get annoyed by it and like find his text too small or find his books too hard to read. I'm not one of them. But he's definitely one of those guys. He's just like undeniably like genius. And like, but I also feel like he's not like, I don't know. Is Chris Ware like well known enough? He does New Yorker covers and stuff, but is he well known enough? Like, is he as known? Like, I think globally, yeah, but I think in the US, like, I think you ask your average Joe if they've heard of like The Watchmen, they have, but if you ask your average Joe if they like read Rusty Brown, like that's, I think it's still in that indie, you know, on that indie tip, you know, I don't know. Anyhow, Swiss music can be an issue 5. I want to see a Swiss Ware. It could literally be the Jimmy Corrigan character with just like a Swiss cheese hair. Like his hair is just a big piece of Swiss cheese. You know, it's pretty much Jimmy Corrigan, but with Swiss cheese for a head. This, bear with me, Erwin. I'll any success you've had. Yeah, Erwin was saying he's like a niche artist. Yeah, and like in the art world, I think he might be more known in the graphic design world. Because originally, I think it was when I was in art school, again, like I stumbled upon Jimmy Corrigan at Acres of Books, but then outside of that, I had seen his lettering in like a ton of design annuals and stuff. That's where I first heard of Chris Ware, was like, who's doing these like crazy typographic things, you know? Swiss cheesehead, totally, yeah. I just feel like Swiss Ware needs to happen though. Don't worry, Erwin. You've had a lot of success with your comics. Follow my lead, and your sales numbers will drop entirely. There will be 2 cartoonists who are like, "Yeah, Swiss Ware, that's good." Like, the rest of it, it's just like suddenly any shop carrying your stuff is like, "Yeah, I don't know if we want to carry this issue." Like, it's like, come on, guys, Swiss Ware. It's gold. Okay, I'm going off about Swiss Ware too often. I feel like you'd have better luck doing like a Robert Crumb parody, because at least our Crumb is kind of recognizable. But then again, I'm in cartoon world so often that I'm like, I don't know how well known Crumb is. Like he's mostly known because he had a documentary. And then people know his like cat, you know, But like, you know, I don't know. I feel like maybe even Harvey Picar is probably more known than Ware. But then what's crazy is, so I have a buddy, Erwin, this is just for you, but like also for anyone in chat. But I have a buddy who, he went to Barcelona, over this summer, just on like a vacation. And so he's like wandering around Barcelona, and then just by happenstance, like he happens to like just be walking downtown by like a university there, and they have an art museum that's having a giant Chris Ware exhibit, and it's like packed. And it's just like, so he took all these pictures, and he bought me a mug because he was like, well, I had to go to it because like it's like your favorite cartoonist. But I was like, what are the odds that like my buddy would go to like Barcelona and find like a giant Chris Ware art exhibit, which is pretty cool. Here, I'll show you the mug. I have a bunch of pens and pencils in it, but it's right here. Isn't that cool? And then the neat thing is it's all in like Spanish, like the text and stuff, like at the bottom of the mug. It says like, yeah, it's like the price is in euros. And then the inside, oh, this is the coolest part. Check this out. The inside has Rusty Brown, like, running. And I'm like, how do we live in a world where Chris Ware is like huge in like Barcelona, and yet you're not going to see that at most places in the US? Swiss Ware needs to be snuck somewhere in the back of a book, like a bonus comic. Yeah, anyhow, that was cool. That was just a gift he got. He also bought me a Fez from Fez, because he was going to go to Fez, and I'm like, you have to get me a Fez. And yeah, it's a good buddy of mine. We make music in a band called No Saboteurs, but he's equally obsessed with Chris Ware because he's a graphic designer. And I think if you're coming from like a design standpoint, it's like there's just not a lot of dudes matching that level of stuff. But Swiss Ware, you know. All right, guys. We're getting there. We're getting there. So I feel like even Daniel Klaus is like more known than Ware. Like among cartoonists, I'd say Chris Ware is pretty well known, but I think outside of just like industry guys, and like snobby New Yorker readers, I don't know how well he's known. All right, guys. We are getting there. We are almost done with tonight's work. Yeah, the Fez thing is cool. I was joking because I was like, well, if you're going to Fez, you know what you got to get me. And I'm like, yeah, he came back with like a legit velvety Fez, which I have on our T-Rex at home. My wife and I, being broke artists, always joked that if we got a house, we'd get like a T-Rex head that's like mounted on a thing, like it would, you know, kind of like an animal head, like a deer, you know, the deer head. But we were like, we want a T-Rex head, and we'll put it like right above our fireplace. And then when I became an art director and we were actually able to buy a house, we were like, one of the first things we did was like, well, got to put a T-Rex over the fireplace. So we have a giant T-Rex head over our fireplace. And now that Fez sits on his head. So he's wearing my Fez. And I don't really feel like fighting a T-Rex for it, so. All right. So you guys, we've talked about so much stuff here. We talked about the Hello Kitty guitar and how metal that thing is and how much that made me feel guitar acquisition syndrome. We talked about Marty McFly's guitar released by Epiphone. We've talked about philosophy. We've talked about Swiss Ware. talked about good restaurants in Long Beach. This has been a good stream. Thanks to those of you who've hung out. Hopefully I kept you company while you worked on art and stuff. And thanks thanks Erwin too. I think this might have been one of the first times I've seen you in the chats. So I appreciate you coming by. I love your live streams, Erwin. Philip said, Hello Kitty guitar. I missed that one. Yeah, there's a Hello. So I'll sum it up for you, Philip. Only for you, because you're awesome. Anyone else, I'd be like, you know what? I talked about it before. Back up the track. But Philip, since you're amazing, just for you, special for you, we'll wrap the stream with just a recap. So yeah, I was talking about, I have this thing where now I'm on a high school teacher's salary, which is much different than an art director's salary. I enjoy it much more than I did being an art director, but needless to say, making about an eighth of what you used to make, I don't have a lot of money to throw around, you know, like, so what I do, when it comes to like really nice guitars is I usually will do like a 48-month payment plan on a guitar. So I can get like a really killer guitar and then I pay it off for 5 years doing like $20 a month. And then once I have it paid off, like 5 years from now, I can like buy another really fancy guitar, like not fancy, but for me, really fancy, like one of my white whale guitars, you know? And so, I recently did this again because I had paid off, my SG, my Gibson SG. And so now I had the ability to pick another one of those guitars, and I did. And I will share that in a bit at some point on a stream to show you guys what it is, but it's pretty cool. But literally the day after it came out, they re-announced that they re-released the Hello Kitty Squire, and that's a guitar that's been on my list of guitars that I want to get for years because it's hilarious, and it's like a metal guitar, and it's the most metal thing in the world. And I mean, how much more metal can you get than like a heavy metal style guitar? It's a Stratocaster with a humbucker pickup and a volume knob. So it's pretty much like the makeup of the original metal guitar, right? The original metal guitar, all you need is a humbucker and a volume knob. Why would you need a tone knob? Why would you need any other pickups? This is like old school metal. So it's become a meme online, but I really just love the idea of the next time No Saboteurs does a live show of just rocking a Hello Kitty guitar when we're playing post-hardcore. I think that would be amazing. And every time they've released them, they actually get better anyhow. So right after I felt like, okay, cool. I bought the last guitar I ever need to get. It's cool. It's on my 5-month thing. It was like literally the next day where they announced this Hello Kitty Stratocaster. And it's a Squire, but it's like they sell out really fast. And every time they come out, I'm just never in a position to actually pick one up. And this relaunch, they announced that. And then right after that, they announced like a re-release, or the first time Epiphone has ever released Marty McFly's 335, which is actually a 334 from Back to the Future. And it's like a true to the movie recreation of that Gibson. And both of those dropped like the day after, like the 2 days after, and the day after I purchased a guitar, which, by the way, if I saw them all, I still would pick the guitar that I got because it's a much better guitar than either of these. But it's just, I was explaining how guitar acquisition syndrome works, because I'll be like, oh, I'm good for guitars, I don't need another guitar. But I do want the Hello Kitty and also Marty McFly's guitar. Come on. Who grew up in the 80s doesn't want that guitar? So that's kind of what I went through. I got into more stuff like the technical specs of it and stuff, but that gives you the gist of it, Philip. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with me. It's been fun. I don't know, Erwin or Philip, are you guys doing a live stream, tonight at all? Because I want to send people your way if you are going to do a live stream. But if not, I'll just kind of wrap it. But let people know in the chats if either of you are live streaming. I'm gonna probably go to sleep. So I'm gonna call it on the stream. But if you guys haven't yet, hit the bell so you get notifications when we're about to go live. If you haven't bought Jacob's Apartment or Two Stories, consider picking those up. They're both pretty heartfelt indie comics. Jacob's Apartment, you can ask your local bookstore like Barnes and Noble to order it for you. And then Two Stories, that you got to order online, but check it out. So Two Stories in Jacob's Apartment. And my music, also check that out. And maybe the next time, Philip said, I have work. I'll be live Wednesday afternoon. Nice. Well, I'll probably be live tomorrow coloring this page. So I will see you guys then if you want. And I will see you guys later. Good night, Dylan. You're awesome. You guys are the best. So thanks for keeping me company. You helped me get through. It was a long day. So it's nice to have people to hang out with to work on art. Have a good one. Enjoy your night. And hopefully you got some work done while I was talking and rambling. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. Goodbye.